This video series has been developed by the Department of Mines and Petroleum for Western Australia's resources industry. It aims to help supervisors and work teams recognise common workplace hazards that have killed or hurt people. Being able to correctly identify hazards is the first step towards reducing the risk of accidents in the workplace. Most safety videos tell people how to do things. We're going to explain why. If you understand the basic principles behind what you're doing, you can adopt safer work practices and better risk controls. After all, we want everyone to go home safe from work.
This video is one in a set focusing on lifting and rigging practices. When things go wrong, if the load moves, the rigging slips, or the chain breaks, you or your workmates could be seriously hurt or killed. In this video, we're exploring why rigging might slip by looking at the idea of friction. Cranes are used to move material from one place to another. Supporting a load usually relies on a fundamental principle known as friction. Friction is a component of the total force that holds back the movement of a sliding object. A crane and its load are two separate objects. Well, obviously. But did you ever wonder what forces bind them together when the crane starts to lift and pivot? Gravity is one factor, but friction also plays a crucial role. It's friction that partly holds the load to the rigging, and the configuration used to rig a load can significantly influence the amount of friction and the load's stability when in transit. Generally speaking, the smoother an object, the less friction or grip it will apply to other objects it comes into contact with. Look at this steel cage. Its feet are smooth. The plates on which they're standing are also smooth, resulting in low friction between them. If we attach a chain to this cage, it should be fairly easy to drag it over the plates. No problem. The load cell readout tells us that only 61.8 kilograms of force is required to get the load moving from a stationary position. We can increase the friction between the feet and the ground by standing the cage on a rubber mat. Once again, we're going to haul the cage and hopefully we'll see a difference in the force required to get it moving. Here we go. And yes, you can see that it took more than twice the force to get the load to slip. However, when lifting a load at a real worksite, ideally the rigging shouldn't slip against the load at all. How can we achieve this? Let's find out. A common item found on worksites is a hydraulic cylinder. The painted section over here has a rough surface, so it can generate more friction than the smoother polished area. You'll notice that the two legs of rigging are positioned so the cylinder's centre of gravity aligns with the overhead hook. 1, 2, 3, and lift. Uh-oh. As expected, the smooth section has slipped loose of its choke, making the load unstable and allowing the cylinder to spill towards the ground and swing to one side. At a worksite, any person in the line of fire would be in serious danger. So, how do you safely lift a load like a hydraulic cylinder? The best way is to use a method that eliminates friction as a factor. A lifting beam, for example, is a good option. It eliminates friction when the chains hang vertically. Some loads come pre-fitted with lifting lugs. Or you can attach portable clamps to the load once you've determined the centre of gravity. Another solution is to generate more friction or grip from your rigging. You could increase the friction by increasing the area of contact between the rigging and load. You can do this using a technique known as double choking. Quite simply, you wrap each chain around the load twice. Better still, use rigging equipment that generates more friction, For example, a soft sling. Let's see if increasing friction makes a difference. Success! The soft sling and extra loops provide the friction we need to safely move this cylinder. A word of warning, however, if you use double choking or a soft sling to increase the grip, you should do a low lift first to check the stability of the load. The amount of friction applied when lifting a load is within your control. Using a lifting beam, applying a double choke, or changing the rigging material may take extra time, and with work pressure, it can be tempting to take a quick look at a load and assume that a single choke will hold. But if you don't rig your load properly, and the load becomes unstable and the lift uncontrolled, the load can slip and hit someone in the line of fire. That person could be hurt or killed, and it might be you. Remember, everyone wants to go home safe from work.